Bills versus Cardinals have a great game of the year. Hopkins is a monster. The Patriots stay alive on Sunday Night Football, upset the Ravens. The Chargers lose the battle of rookie QBs. Dolphins win 5 in a row. They're a threat in the AFC. The Seahawks lose their second game in a row, go from first to third in the NFC East. In the NBA, trades open up today, November 16th. Crazy offseason for the NBA. My name's Ismael San Juan. This is Hard to Handle Sports Podcast, episode number 16. Let's get started. Week 10 of the NFL is in the books. It just concluded right now. The Bears versus Vikings game just concluded. Here are the scores for week 10 of the NFL. Colts 34, Titans 17. Browns beat the Texans in an ugly game, 10-7. That game got delayed for a little bit because the conditions were too bad to start the game. Lions beat the Washington football team 30-27. Alex Smith has his first back-to-back 300-yard games in his career. Good job for him. Shout out to Alex Smith. Comeback player of the year. Buccaneers bounce back after getting destroyed by the Saints. 46-23 against the Panthers. They look great. They look good. Eagles versus Giants. Eagles lose to the Giants. Giants are one win behind the Eagles in the win column. They might steal the division. That division's still a joke. Another week, another joke. The Jaguars keep it close with the Packers, but they lose. Packers 24, Jaguars 20. Packers are the first seed in the NFC. Cardinals 32, Bills 30. Great game. I'll deep dive into this game. It was amazing. It was a crazy finish. I hope y'all watched it. It was a great game. Dolphins versus Chargers. Dolphins 29, Chargers 21. Battle of rookie QBs. I'll dive deep into that one too. Raiders destroy the Broncos 37-12. The Raiders play the Chiefs next. They beat them once already. They're on a roll right now. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Good job, Raiders. Good job to all the Raider fans. Looks like you guys have a good team now. I like Chucky. I like your coach. So, good job, Raiders. Seahawks lose to the Rams 23-16. I'll also talk about that game in a little bit. The Steelers take care of the Bengals 36-10. Big Ben looked good. A lot of receivers got into it. Claypool had 2 touchdowns. It was an all-around good performance for the Steelers. After Big Ben didn't practice the whole week because of COVID or the COVID regulations. He didn't have COVID, but someone that he was close to had COVID, so he had to miss the whole week of practice. Saints 27, 49ers 13. The storyline of this was Drew Brees got hurt. He's expected to miss around 3 to 4 weeks with like broken ribs and like a punctured lung or something. He should be fine moving forward, but he's going to miss some weeks. So it's Jameis Winston's team for now. Patriots upset the Ravens 23-17. Ugly weather in that game. I'll go into more detail about that game in a little bit. And right now, the Monday Night Football game just ended. Bears 13, Vikings 19. Vikings are trying to make a late push for a playoff spot. They're 4-5 now. The Bears started 5-1. They lose 5 straight. They're 5-5. That offense is the most despicable offense in the whole NFL. It's so hard to watch. Foles got hurt at the end of the game because their line can't protect him. I feel sorry for Foles. That Bears team is going south real fast. I don't think Nagy's the coach for that team. But yeah, those are the scores for week 10 of the NFL season. Also today is, I'm recording it at November 16th, the night of November 16th. Today at noon Eastern time, NBA teams are able to do trades for the NBA offseason. We have a lot of rumors. I'm going to touch on that at the end of the podcast. So stick around for these trade rumors, some trades that already got accepted. Schroder to the Lakers, Chris Paul to the Suns. And there's rumors of Harden going to the Nets. It just came out not too long ago. I saw it on Twitter. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to go to the Nets. Crazy stuff that's unfolding right now. But let me just get into the NFL games. The first game that I wanted to touch on this week, Bills versus Cardinals, 30-32. It was a great game. Hail Murray. Murray threw a Hail Mary to Hopkins at the end of the game, and Hopkins in between 3 defenders from the Bills. Caught it, went up. Micah Hyde. They had Tre'Davious White and the other safety. Both safeties and Tre'Davious White were there. And Hopkins was the one that came down. Crazy finish to that game. It was spectacular finish. With 3:35 left, Josh Allen had the ball back. They were down, I believe, 4 points. They were down, let me see, 23 to 26. They were down 23 to 26. They were down 3, and they scored a touchdown to make it 30-26. And then he just drove them down the field, 78 yards. Stephon Diggs touchdown with 34 seconds left. Stephon Diggs was celebrating like he had won the game. Honestly, I mean, I didn't think the game was over, but it was like pretty hard for the Cardinals to come back. Stephon Diggs got up. He started like talking to the cameras. He's like, "That's why you pay me. That's why you pay me." Stephon Diggs got really hyped. It was a great ending to the game because the drive before, Josh Allen had thrown an interception, but the defense held on and got them the ball back. And then he was able to drive down the field. He was completing to Diggs. He was completing to Cole Beasley. And then beautiful touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs beat Patrick Peterson to the corner. It was beautiful pass and beautiful drive. It was just a great drive. Honestly, I was giving Josh Allen a lot of props during that time because he had thrown 2 interceptions in the game, but he drove them down the field. He looked like he was in command. It just felt like it was like a defining moment in Josh Allen's career, like just driving them down the field against a really good team, against another MVP candidate and Kyle Murray. And then Murray just brought them back down the field with 34 seconds, took him to the 43-yard line. And then he's just so quick. Like, he's exceptionally quick and fast, but like just his acceleration is just ridiculous because on that Hail Mary pass, he had a rusher that was about to get to him, and he kind of just goes one way, goes the other, eludes him, and then he's able to throw a prayer to DeAndre Hopkins, and he comes down with it, and it's just amazing game, back and forth game, probably the game of the year so far. It seems like every week there's a game of the year, but this one was just top entertainment. Arizona seems like they always have great games. I feel like I'm always covering Arizona, and it's not because I'm an Arizona Cardinal fan or anything like that. It's just that their games, week in and week out, their games are just super fun. You got to watch Murray. He's like must watch TV. The way the way he runs the ball, the way he throws the ball, the way he eludes pass rushers, it's just a fun team to watch. So I always find myself catching the Arizona games, and Kyle Murray just makes him so fun to watch. He's in his second year, and he looks like he's gonna have a bright future. I think he scored a rushing touchdown for the fifth or sixth straight game, and he's like he ties the record. And he just looks like he's on his way for 1,000 yards rushing, 4,000 yards passing, MVP candidate for sure. If he wasn't before, now he is. The Arizona Cardinals went from 3rd place in their division to 1st place. If they would have lost that game, they would have been 3rd place, and they won. So now they're 1st place in the division as a 3-way tie on top of the NFC West, and they play Seattle on Thursday Night Football. It's gonna be, oh my God, that's gonna be probably the best. That's probably gonna be the best Thursday Night Football game of the year. Arizona Cardinals versus Seattle Seahawks, Thursday Night Football. Put it on your schedule. It's going to be a great game. I'm super excited to see how that plays out. I'm probably going to make a predictions video because I'm super. I just can't wait for that game. But yeah, the Bills blew their chance. They could have gone to 8-2, but now they're 7-3. They're half a game up from the Dolphins. They have their bye week coming up, and the Dolphins, they play this week. So if the Dolphins win, then they catch up to them in the standings, which is rather unfortunate for them because they did have a nice little cushion, but then they lost a couple games, and the Dolphins have won 5 straight games now, so they're right there behind them. But now they get a bye week. They get to, work on their defense. I think they need to work on their defense, and they need to work on their rush attack. Josh Allen was their leading rusher. Obviously, he's their quarterback, and he caught a pass for a touchdown. I just feel like they may be over relying too much on Josh Allen right now. They need to find a run game with whether it's Singletary or Moss. They need to find a run game to take some pressure off of Josh Allen, and then they need to shore up their defense because they gave up 35 to the Seattle Seahawks last week, and they gave up 32 to Arizona this week. And if you're asking your offense to just keep scoring 30 plus points every week because your defense can't stop the other team, then it's going to be a tough ask, and they might slip, and the Dolphins might steal the division from them. But both teams are great. Both teams are fun to watch. Both teams have elite wide receivers. These teams share some similarities because they both traded for a wide receiver in the offseason. The same day, actually, the Bills traded with the Vikings to get Stephon Diggs, and the Arizona Cardinals traded with the Texans to get DeAndre Hopkins. And both wide receivers are leading the league in receptions and yards. Stephon Diggs leads in receptions and yards, and then right behind him is DeAndre Hopkins, number 2 in catches, number 2 in yards. It's just, this is what teams are supposed to do when you have a young quarterback. You're supposed to give him weapons. You're supposed to give him a chance to mature, to develop into a great quarterback, and you just got to give him weapons. You got to give him a chance. And I'm pretty proud of those organizations for giving their quarterbacks a chance to succeed. It's if you have a good tight end or if you have a number 1 wide receiver, it just takes off so much load off of your quarterback because there's a safety blanket. There's someone that you could trust. But the other thing that I was thinking when this game was going on is how inept Bill O'Brien is. The trade that he made to get Hopkins out of the Houston Texans is just ridiculous. It was Johnson, the running back from Arizona, who had a horrible contract, and then he got a 2nd-round pick out of it. And the Texans drafted like some defensive player that hasn't done anything. And David Johnson is on IR. He's hurt, or I don't know if he's on IR, but he missed the game with a concussion. And even if he didn't miss the game, he has not been effective this season. He had a really good week 1, and then after that, he just burned out. David Johnson's not the David Johnson of like 2016 anymore. Everyone knows that he's had a lot of injuries, and his value was diminishing, and he had an ugly contract. And still, Bill O'Brien traded for him. I have no idea what he was thinking, but I'm glad. I'm sure that Texans fans are glad that he's fired now, but I still could not just get it in my head. Like, what was he thinking when he traded Hopkins? But anyways, it was a great game. I hope you guys watched the game. If you guys didn't, you guys should go watch the highlights. Amazing game. Bills versus Cardinals, game of the week for sure. But moving along to the second game that I wanted to get into, Chargers versus Dolphins. Chargers lose 21-29. The Dolphins, honestly, the Chargers kind of handed them the game. They messed up on special teams a couple of times. They got a punt blocked, and then the Dolphins basically got it inside the 10-yard line, and then they just punched it in. I think Tua threw a pass on the play-action pass. And then on the next drive, the Dolphins were about to kick a field goal because they couldn't, they didn't get a first down, so they were going to kick a field goal. But it was less than 5 yards. It was like 4th and 3, I believe. And then the Charger player jumps offside, gives them a free 5 yards, gets them a first down, and then after that, they score a touchdown. So just mistake after mistake after mistake from the Chargers. If you're a Charger fan, or you used to be a Charger fan like me, like myself, you're more than used to this. Like, this is a common occurrence. This happens all the time. Chargers just can't get out of their way. They just cause more problems to themselves than the other team causes to them. It's just, I know Charger fans are frustrated. I know Charger fans want that whole coaching staff to be gone. It's just, it just seems like every week the Chargers just find a new way to lose. And I mean, I wanted to see, this was a showcase for Herbert and Tua, but it turned out to be just a defensive show by the Dolphins. Justin Herbert was averaging over 300 yards throwing in the season. He was lighting up every defense that he played, and lo and behold, the Miami Dolphins defense held him to 187 yards. So they locked him down pretty good. They made him feel like a rookie. I think Keenan Allen after the game said to the media that the Chargers were pretty confused out there, that they didn't know what they were doing pretty much. And that's a bad look for the coaches. That's a bad look for offensive coordinator Coach Lynn. And I think Charger fans, I still have a lot of Charger fans on my on my TL on Twitter, and I just know that Charger fans are super done with that coaching stuff. They want that coaching staff fired. And as a neutral fan, like, I just see the team playing week in and week out, and I could tell you that the Chargers need to move on from Coach Lynn, from their defensive coordinators, from their special teams coach. Yeah, they need to clean house. They need to look somewhere else. But for the Dolphins, they should feel good about themselves. This offseason, they signed Byron Jones from the Cowboys. He was a free agent. They gave him a huge contract. At the time, he was the highest paid corner in the NFL. And they had Xavier Howard, who was, at the time, he was the highest paid cornerback. So they had number 1 and number 2 paid cornerbacks in the whole league. They put a lot of money into that defense. They signed a lot of players to the defensive side in the offseason. And now it's showing them. Brian Flores he has a good program going right there. The Dolphins are on the right track. Since they went to Tua, they're 3-0. They have 5 wins in a row. They're not even one game behind the Bills. They're half a game out. The Bills have the bye week, and the Dolphins play the Broncos next. So if the Dolphins beat the Broncos this week, they tie the Bills for first place in the division. Who would have thought 2 years ago the Dolphins were down in the dirt? It looked like their future was super bleak. There was no hope for them. They hire the right coach. They hire, they draft the right quarterback. They make key signings in free agency, and now look at them. It's important to get the right coach. It's important to get the right quarterback, and then if you make some key signings in the offseason, you could turn a franchise around pretty quick. The main thing is a coach and a quarterback. Even if they hadn't signed a good defensive player, or they had made that many good moves in the offseason, just the fact that they had Flores and Tua would have been, like, you could have seen it on the field, even if they weren't getting wins. But now, since they have the whole package, they signed some good defensive players. They have a good defense. They have a solid quarterback, and their coach looks like he's the real deal. They put the fast burners on this rebuild, and now they look like a legit team. They can compete for the AFC East, and they could definitely compete for a playoff spot. I think they're going to be here for a long time. I'm happy to see that. Shout out to all the Dolphin fans that stayed through all these years. Tua and Brian Flores definitely have this thing going the right way. But the Dolphins have the Broncos, the Jets, and the Bengals. So they should be favored against all 3 of them. They should beat the Broncos. They should beat the Jets, and they should beat the Bengals. The Bengals one's going to be fun. It's going to be Tua versus Burrow, the two first quarterbacks drafted in this previous draft. So the Dolphins could really stack up these wins. They're already on a 5-game win streak, and if they beat these 3 teams, 8-game win streak going into the tougher part of their calendar at the end. So the Dolphins have really positioned themselves to really make a playoff push in this last few weeks. And they play the Bills on week 17. So the division might come down to that last week of the NFL. Bills versus Dolphins week 17. I've been saying this since the last podcast. I think it's going to come down to week 17. So circle that in your calendar if you haven't already. Week 17, Miami Dolphins versus Buffalo Bills. That's going to be a great game. And as far as the Chargers, I mean, they need to fire their coaching staff. I keep reading and I keep hearing that the Spanos, the owner for the Chargers, loves Coach Lynn, and everybody says that he's a great person. And I mean, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that he's a great person. I don't doubt that he's a good human being. But being a good person, being a good human being can only take you so far when you're the head coach of a football team. You got to be a good head coach. And it doesn't look like he's a good head coach. It doesn't look like his staff, the staff that he put around him, is good for the team, for that franchise. So I think they should move on. They should hire a different coach, different squad of coaches. And if it doesn't happen, I want to predict that the Chargers are going to lose to the Jets, but I don't know if I'm going to go there. It is the Jets. The Jets are tanking so hard. They want to get, that quarterback. They want to get the first overall pick in next year's draft. So the Jets might, not put their best effort just to guarantee that they get that draft pick. But I could definitely see the Chargers losing to the Jets this next weekend, just because the players might be giving up on Coach Lynn, and that's like the number one step that needs to happen for like a Chargers just lose to a bad Jets team. And history tells us that the Chargers, they'll give somebody a win. Like I think it was 2-3 years ago, maybe a little further out. The Browns were on their way to have an 0-16 season too, and the Chargers somehow were the only team that lost to the Browns that year, and the Browns ended up as a 1-15 team. And sometimes history repeats itself, and I could kind of see that. The Chargers do have a way better offense. They have a way better roster, but for some reason they can't get it together. And if people talk, players talk in that locker room, and if they're talking that, you know what, Coach Lynn is not the one that should be leading us, he should not be the head coach that's going to take us to, the promised land, then they might just throw this game against it, as bad as it sounds. And if they see that no change is happening, if they see that the owner is in love with that head coach and he's not going to get rid of him, losing to the Jets might just do it. If Coach Lynn survives the Chargers losing to the Jets, then I give up. I don't know what it's gonna take for Coach Lynn to get fired, but Chargers do have the Jets next. In theory, that should be a win on their schedule. They should go to 3-7, I believe, and they should get some confidence. But who knows? Like I said, if the players have given up on Coach Lynn, that might be the best way to get rid of him. Losing to the Jets, just throwing it out there. It's a possibility. It might happen. But yeah, Chargers lose to the Dolphins. They could have a bright future if they change their coaching staff. Herbert looks like the real deal, even though he struggled against the Dolphins' stingy defense. And the Dolphins look like they're playoff bound, look like they could steal the AFC East from the Bills. They're on a 5-game win streak. That defense is legit. Brian Flores, Tua, they definitely know what they're doing. They're gonna make a nice little push for the playoffs. But on to the next game, Seahawks versus Rams, 23-16. The Seahawks lose to the Rams. The Seahawks are kind of falling apart over here. Russ, 2 weeks ago, he trademarked the saying, "Let Russ cook." Since then, he's 0-2. He's had a lot of turnovers. The Seahawks went from number 1 in the NFC. They were gonna get a bye going into the playoffs, and now they're third place in their division. I think they're the 6th seed in the NFC. So it's been a rough few weeks for the Seahawks. You actually can't really put the blame on the defense. I know for the whole NFL season, everyone's been talking about the Seahawks defense, how they've been historically bad, how they allow the most pass yards in like NFL history through the first 9 weeks of the NFL season. It's been rough for them, but they showed up. They kind of showed up. They only allowed the Rams to score 23 points. They kept the game at a reachable distance for Russell Wilson and that offense. They kept them in there. They gave up 6 points in the second half. I believe they got some turnovers. They held up their own. The Seahawks offense just couldn't get anything going. Russell Wilson had 3 turnovers. He had another game with multiple turnovers. He had two interceptions and a fumble. Both interceptions were pretty ugly. The first one, especially, I did not understand what he was doing. He stepped up into the pocket, and it looked like he was gonna run for the first down, and he was gonna have a one-on-one with the defender. And sometimes Russell Wilson's able to, in the open field, make a move and get rid of the defender. And I thought that's what he was gonna do. But right as he was approaching the line of scrimmage, he sees the wide receiver on the left side of the end zone, and he tries to log it up to them. And that was a bad decision. It was an easy interception for the Rams defender. And then the second interception, it was like a 10-yard out route. Kind of threw it too late, or the defender read him. The defender was looking at Russ, saw that he wanted to go there, cut off the receiver and picked him off. And then he low snap. That one's half on the center, half on Russell Wilson. It was a low snap. Russell Wilson wasn't able to corral it. He tried to reach down to pick it up, and then he couldn't. And then he tried to dive on it, and he wasn't able to. And that was another turnover. So what I've learned is the Seattle Seahawks are a pretty good team when there's no turnovers, when the offense is firing on all cylinders. By no means they're like an amazing team. Even when that happens, they usually squeak out wins, but it's usually like enough to get W's, to get wins. But whenever the offense has a lot of turnovers, they have no chance. They have no chance to win. And it's kind of sad because it seems like they can never get a good defensive performance and a good offensive performance at the same time. It seems like either Russell Wilson goes crazy and has a great game, leads the offense to a lot of points, but then the defense chokes and gives up more points to the other team. Or now, for the first time, the defense puts up a good showing, a decent showing, a showing that you could, be proud of against the Rams, against a pretty good offense. They allowed 23 points, only 6 in the second half, and then the offense just couldn't get anything going. And I'm hoping that the Seahawks are able to get a full game together where the defense plays good and the offense plays good, because they're in the NFC, and the NFC is very, very tough. And they, like I said, they went from the first place in the NFC to third place in their division, and now they're the 6th seed. They do play the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football, so they have a chance to go right back up to first place. They did already. The two teams they're competing against in their division, the Rams and the Cardinals, took game 1 of their 2 games this season. So as far as if Arizona is able to beat the Seattle Seahawks again, they'll be a game up on them, plus another half, because they would have swept the series 2-0 for the year. So this game is very crucial for Seattle. If they lose to Arizona, it's going to be real hard for them to win the division. And then, it's really tough to get to the Super Bowl once you have to go on the road 3 times. So Seattle is low-key a must-win game. Like, you don't want to lose 3 in a row. And then I think I forgot who they play after the Cardinals, but you don't want to lose 3 games in a row. And then you just keep doubting yourself once you get in these losing streaks. So they need to beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are playing good football, but they also don't have the best defense. I think it's going to be an exciting game. This Thursday Night Football game is going to be a great game. If you're not doing anything Thursday, watch this game. Seattle Seahawks versus the Cardinals. As far as the Rams, they showed a pretty balanced attack. There's good running game. Goff did his thing. He didn't look spectacular, but in my opinion, Goff never really spectacular other than that Super Bowl year where McVay had everything firing and they looked like a all-time great offense. But the offense does enough. It's not the Super Bowl offense of like 3 years ago, but it's a consistent offense that gets enough points to get the win, and the defense is good too. They have stars on that defense, and they showed up yesterday. Jalen Ramsey made his point for being the best cornerback in the NFL. He completely shut down Metcalf. He followed him almost all the game. Metcalf, I believe, only had 2 catches for 26 yards after destroying the league. And all the other weeks, that was all everyone was talking about. Metcalf. Even LeBron called him Baby LeBron. Everybody was, giving Metcalf his praises, and for good measure, he's had a great start of the season, and he's really made that leap this second year. But Jalen Ramsey showed the NFL why he's the highest paid cornerback in the league. It was an impressive performance by Jalen Ramsey, and very impressive win for the Rams. A lot of people were saying that the Rams hadn't beat anybody, that they had just beaten the NFC East, the Cowboys, the Washington football team, the Eagles, and the Giants, and then they beat the Bears. So people were saying they haven't really beaten anybody. Who have they really beaten? We don't know how good the Rams are. Well, now they beat the Seattle Seahawks, and they go to first. They're tied for first in that division. So the Rams are sneaking up on people right now. I didn't think the Rams were going to be good this year, but Coach McVay is a good head coach, and he has the Rams back on track, it seems like, and it looks like they are going to make a playoff spot. So shout out to the Rams. Shout out to all the Rams fans. Impressive win against the Seahawks this week, and keep it going. We'll see how they finish up. And the last football game that I wanted to talk about this for Week 10 of the NFL season was Ravens versus Bears on Sunday Night Football. Ravens versus Patriots, my bad. Ravens versus Patriots on Sunday Night Football. The Patriots beat the Ravens 23-17. It was ugly weather in Foxborough. It was raining really hard, especially at the end. It was just a downpour. What I learned from that game is that the Patriots won't give up. The Patriots are fighters. We've been knowing this. When they went to 3-5, or when they went to 2-5, people were saying like, you got to write them off. Like, there's no way they come back from this. But they beat the Jets. They beat the Ravens. Ravens are a good team. Jets aren't. But now they have 2 back-to-back wins. They're building a little momentum. And they're not done. They're 4-5. They can still make a late push for the playoffs. We'll see how that plays out. But Damian Harris, he looks like he's the real deal. He has another game over 100 yards rushing. He runs super hard. Watching him against the Ravens defense they're tough. They're physical, and Damian Harris is just putting his head down, finishing runs, not going down easily, getting an extra 1 or 2 yards every single run. He looks good. He looks like he's gonna be a great running back for them going forward. Cam only threw the ball 17 times. I think that was a good game plan by McDaniels. The weather did not really permit for a passing game, so they grinded the game out. They ran the ball a lot. They let their defense, do their thing. And as far as the Ravens, I've always had my doubts around the talent that they've put around Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson gets a lot of scrutiny because, he's not the passer that you would like him to be at this point in his career just yet. He needs to, develop more of a throwing attack. Like, you don't really think Lamar Jackson is going to bring you back with his arm. It's one of the knocks against him. He's a great running quarterback, but when it's time to bring a team back and you gotta, drive a team down the field with your arm, Lamar Jackson's just not there. At the end of the game, when they were down 6 and they got the ball one last time, I didn't really think he was gonna be able to bring him back. Just because, not just so much because Lamar Jackson doesn't have the arm talent or he's not there as a pocket quarterback yet. Just because he doesn't really have the weapons to do it. He has Andrews, a tight end. He's cool. But when you're trying to stretch the field, he has Snead, who's not really a number one. He has Hollywood Brown, he's fast, but he's not really like an amazing wide receiver. You just look down their depth chart at wide receiver, and he doesn't really have a go-to weapon. I think the Ravens, if they're serious about giving Lamar Jackson help, they should get a wide receiver. I would suggest Allen Robinson from the Bears. That the Bears should trade Allen Robinson, give him to the Ravens, give Lamar Jackson a little bit of help. But the Ravens kind of blew their chance. There were 2 games behind the Steelers going into this weekend, and the Steelers won again. And now the Ravens lose to the Patriots. They're 3 games behind the Steelers, and it just looks that they're not going to be able to catch them up. I think they should forget about catching up to the Steelers and just focus on getting a playoff spot. They're 6-3. I believe there's like 5 or 6 teams that are 6-3 at the moment in the AFC. So it's going to be a tough finish for the Ravens. They look to be a lock for the playoffs for a long, long time. And now, after losing to the Patriots and all these teams winning, that 5, 6, and 7th playoff spot, that wild card spots in the AFC are going to be a battle. So I just hope I want to see the Ravens in the playoffs. I think they're one of the elite teams in the AFC. So I hope they do make the playoffs, but it's gonna be a tough finish. The AFC is pretty loaded this year, so hopefully the Ravens are able to maintain their lead in the rest of the conference. The Patriots play the Texans, the Cardinals, and the Chargers next. They should beat the Texans and they should beat the Chargers. The Cardinals are a tough game, but if they're able to beat all 3 of those teams, they'll be 7-5. They'll be right there in the thick of things, and they might be able to sneak in and get a playoff spot. And who knows? Don't count Belichick out. Don't count the Patriots out. It's a bad thing to bet against the Patriots. They usually end up burning you. And the Ravens are 6-3, and they have the Titans and Steelers next. So hey, the Ravens better get it together because the Titans haven't looked that good, but they're 6-3 too. And the Steelers are undefeated. So if the Ravens slip up and they lose any of these games, they're gonna fall down the rankings, and they might get in danger of missing the playoffs altogether. When going into the season, most people had the Ravens and the Chiefs as the number 1 and number 2 teams in the AFC. So it was a good Sunday Night Football game. It was a hard-nosed game. Like I said, the weather didn't really permit for a lot of passing game, but the Patriots grinded that game out. And they're 4-5 now. They keep their chances alive. They're the only team other than all the 6-3 teams that has the chance to make the playoffs. It's either you're a 6-3 team and you're fighting for a playoff spot, or you're the Patriots at 4-5 with a slim chance to sneak in. Especially if they add another playoff spot. If games get canceled, they might have a chance. But we'll see. I am a big Cam fan, so I hope he does good, and I hope he's able to rejuvenate his career, because I've always been a Cam Newton fan, and he's not as quick as he used to be, and maybe his arm talent is diminishing, but he's still a fun guy to watch play. So we'll see how the season plays out. But Patriots upset the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. It was a pretty good game, and that concludes my Week 10 discussion for the NFL season. Let's quickly transition over to the NBA. Like I said, today is November 16th, Monday, November 16th at today, noon Eastern time, NBA teams were able to trade with each other. So yeah, today NBA teams were able to trade with each other. There's 2 trades that have been done. The first one I want to talk about is the Lakers have traded Danny Green, their 2020 first round pick, for Dennis Schroder. I have read reports that says that OKC does not want to keep Danny Green, so there might be a third team involved to find a team for Danny Green. But as far as the Lakers go, Dennis Schroder was my 6th man of the year last year. I thought he should have won 6th man of the year, so I have him rated pretty highly. He's a dynamic point guard. He's super, super quick. From his time in Atlanta, you could just tell he's a fast point guard. He could move the ball up the court really, really fast. Last year, he shot 41% in catch and shoot threes. So he's a good point guard. He's quick. He could shoot from the 3. He's good from catch and shoot. He could play off ball. Like, I know LeBron dominates the ball a lot, so he could definitely play off the ball. And it looks like Rondo's going to leave in free agency. I'm reading a lot of reports. It says that Rondo is looking to cash out. He played good last season, so I don't blame him for trying to get some more money, some more dough at the end of his career. But if that is the case, if he was to leave the Lakers, shout out Rondo. He had a great season last year. He was one of the cogs for the Lakers getting that championship and having a great playoff run. So shout out to Rondo for his service. And I don't blame him for trying to get a little more money at the end of his career. But Dennis Schroder, I think this is a great trade for the Lakers. He's young. I believe he's like 26 years old. He just had his best season in his NBA career. In my opinion, he should have won 6th man of the year. And if you're giving away Danny Green on a contract that's paying him, I believe, $60 million a year, and your first round pick, which is a super late first round pick, I believe the Lakers have the 28th overall pick. So if you're giving up the 29th overall pick and Danny Green for Dennis Schroder, that's a great deal in my opinion. I applaud Pelinka for pulling that trade off. And then after that, the Lakers are rumored to be interested in Wesley Matthews and Serge Ibaka. I think those are great signings. If the Lakers are able to pull all these moves off, I think they will firmly position themselves as a candidate to repeat. I think Vegas already has them as the favorites. I agree with that. But if you add Wesley Matthews, he can shoot the 3 too, and he's still a pretty good perimeter defender. And Serge Ibaka is just a great energy guy. He could play the 5, he could play the 4. In the playoffs last year, he was shooting the 3 rather good. So Serge Ibaka, Wesley Matthews, and trading for Dennis Schroder, I think that's a great offseason for the Lakers. I think it adds the type of players that they need. They don't really have the assets to trade for like a big star. But Schroder, Wesley Matthews, Serge Ibaka, maybe a couple more players to fill out the roster that could shoot the 3. I think that would be great additions for the Lakers. It would position. I think they all fit really good with LeBron and AD. Like Serge Ibaka could definitely play next to AD. Like he's able to at least space out the floor somewhat. He's not like a black hole as a 3-point shooter. And Wesley Matthews, he's getting a little older. He did have that Achilles injuries, I believe, like 3 years ago. But I think he's over it. He's still a quality player. That would be a good addition. And then you still have Caruso, and it looks like they're gonna be able to keep KCP. Solid rotations as the Lakers, and you still have LeBron. You still have AD, 2 top 5 players, 2 All NBA players. So it's looking like it's a good offseason for the Lakers. I like these moves. I don't really find a fault in them. There was other rumors that they were trying to move Kuzma and somebody else for the Spurs players. What's his name? Oh, I forgot his name. But they were trying to trade for. They're trying to move Kuzma to another team, and now, as of like 30 minutes ago, from when I started recording this, Kuzma just deactivated his Twitter. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's going somewhere. DeMar DeRozan, that's the player that the Lakers were rumored to be getting. I don't know about that one. He has 1 year left on his big contract. So I don't know how the numbers will work out, and he can't shoot the 3. He's a mid-range shooter, so I'm just scared that he's going to clog up the paint for AD. And, LeBron's 3-point shot has gotten better over the years, but it's still not, like, super consistent. He could go on stretches where he gets cold from 3-point line. And then there has been scenarios where teams just back off him and clog the paint, and they just dare him to shoot the three. So my worry, the worst case scenario is we trade some of our shooters, some of our defenders to get DeRozan, and then LeBron has a cold streak from three, and then AD could get streaky from three too, and then now you just have a bunch of players that aren't really that good from the 3-point line, and DeRozan won't even attempt 3-point shots. I think he shot 1 3-pointer every 2 games last year. So, I mean, he is a good player. Don't get me wrong. DeRozan's still a quality player. He could maybe make an all-star. But he's I don't like the fit with the Lakers. So I'd much rather they get Dennis Schroder. I think that was a more sounder safe that fits the team better. So if they do pull off this trade, I think they're holding off the trade till Wednesday because they're trying to find another team. And then on Wednesday, the NBA draft is happening. So what might happen is the Lakers just talk to OKC, and then OKC tells them who they want to draft, and the Lakers end up drafting that player, and then they finish the trade after the draft. So that's how it looks like it's going to play out. As far as OKC, they just keep piling picks. I think they have 17 picks from here on to 2027. They have a good GM. He's probably the best in the business. I'm pretty excited to see what they do with those picks. It looks like pretty soon they're going to have to package some of those picks for a player, because 17 picks in 6 years and a roster size of, I believe, like 15. You're not going to be able to draft. You're not going to be able to keep all those picks and draft every single player because there's just not enough space in their team. So I'm pretty excited to see how OKC goes about to using these picks, how they package them to get some players, but they really positioned themselves to make a big trade or two in the future. Where I can see them packaging like 3 or 4 first-round picks and just going after somebody like pretty good. So we have to see and wait and see what they do in the next couple of years, but they're definitely positioned themselves to be a contender maybe 5-6 years from now after they make some moves. But OKC, can't fault them. They got a good year out of Dennis Schroder, good year or two, and now they're flipping him, and good trade for the Lakers too. But the big news in NBA right now is the Nets. The Nets are trying to acquire James Harden. It just came out before this recording that James Harden has told the Rockets that he wants to get traded, and the only team he wants to get traded is the Nets. He wants to go to the Brooklyn Nets. That's crazy news. That would form a huge, not a big three, a huge three of Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. That would be crazy. As far as talent, that would be the best trio in the league. That should put them as the favorites, in my opinion, to win the East, to win the NBA championship, the Bill O'Brien trophy. 3 top elite players. You could put Kyrie as a top 5 point guard. James Harden is the best shooting guard. And KD, him and LeBron are the 2 best players in the NBA. So if they do pull off that trade, the only thing you could question is if they're going to be able to gel. As far as talent, they have more talent than any team in the NBA. 3 top elite players. But who's going to sacrifice? Who's going to give up some touches? Harden is... I say it's Harden because he's averaging over 30 points the last few seasons, 35 points. So he's going to have to sacrifice. Kyrie's a super dominant ball handler too. James Harden has like the highest usage rate in the NBA, and KD loves to have the ball in his hands too. So it's just, and a rookie head coach and Steve Nash. Those are the questions that need to be asked. Like, are they going to be able to gel? Who's going to sacrifice? Who's going to give up the ball? Who's going to be content with standing on the side, watching the other players play? And the other thing is, if they trade for Harden, how's their bench going to look? They're going to have 3 elite players that could score, that could go for 50. All of them could go for 50 any given night. But as far as their bench, how is that going to play out in the playoffs? If one of them gets hurt, does that deter their whole team for the season? But no matter what happens, if they do pull this trade off for James Harden, they'll be easily the favorites in the East. They should make it's finals or bust. It's championship or bust. If they get James Harden, they should already be like one or the first or second favorite in the East. But if they get Harden, it's championship or bust. And the thing I question is, do they have enough assets to get him? Dinwiddie, LeVert, Prince, Jared Allen. Is that enough? Is that enough? Like, if you're the Rockets and you get Dinwiddie, you get LeVert, you get Tajon Prince, and you get Jared Allen, are you content? Are you happy with what you got for Harden? I don't think so. In my opinion, if I'm the Rockets GM, that's not enough. That's not enough to get Harden. Dinwiddie's a nice player. LeVert is a good player. Prince has potential. Jared Allen has potential too, but I need more. So they might have to get a third team. But like I said, James Harden has said that he wants to go to the Nets. So that puts pressure on the Rockets because they can't really trade him to anybody else. If he goes to anywhere else, he could just tell them that he's not going to re-sign with them, that they're getting him on a rental or whatever. But it does look like he's trying to force the Rockets' hand. It just also came out that they offered him a 2-year, $100 million extension, and he denied it. It would have been the highest contract per year in NBA history, $50 million per year, and he said no to that. So honestly, it's starting to look like it's inevitable, like it's gonna happen. Like Harden to the Nets is gonna happen. Like I said, I'm recording this as of Monday night, November 16th, and free agency. The draft is on Wednesday. Free agency starts on Friday. You can sign players on Sunday. So how long is it gonna take? Like, drop your comments down below. How long do you think it's gonna take for Harden to become a Net? Today is Monday. Like Tuesday, Wednesday. How long? Like, free agency starts, the draft starts. I say by the draft. If this is gonna happen, it's gonna happen by Wednesday. By Wednesday, they should have this materialized, and it's crazy. Harden and KD reunited after so many years that they played together in OKC, with Kyrie now as a running mate instead of Westbrook. And we'll see if they're able to do it. We'll see if they're able to get a championship. Like I'm saying, every report is swaying me to believe that this is going to happen. The NBA offseason is crazy. It's all jam-packed in 1 week this year. And then we're super close to the start of the NBA season again. So it's just crazy moves. Like, I'm still wrapping my head around this. It's just crazy. Like 2 years ago, if I would have told you KD's going to leave the Warriors, Kyrie's going to leave the Celtics, and Harden's going to leave the Rockets, and they're all going to be with the Nets after the Nets had been what the Nets had been for a while. It's just crazy. And I mean, it's fun. I love seeing player movement. I love seeing fresh new teams. And it's going to be a challenge. As a Laker fan, I know it's going to be a challenge for the Lakers to just make it out of their West. And then if they have this team waiting for them in the East, the path to a repeat just gets so much harder. But I'm excited for this 2020-2021 season. I think it's going to be a great season. But the last trade that I wanted to talk about, the last trade that happened, or trade rumor, this one is confirmed. Chris Paul is going to the Suns. Chris Paul, there was other players that are involved in the trade, but basically Chris Paul for Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, and a 2022 first-round pick. The Suns get an older Chris Paul, but he's still a really good player. Last year he showed that he still has a lot to offer to a franchise. He still got some thread on those tires. He led the OKC to the playoffs after everybody had them missing in the preseason rankings. No one had the OKC making the playoffs. Chris Paul put that team on his back. He led them to the playoffs, had a competitive series against the Rockets, and now he gets to go to the Suns and mentor Devin Booker. And I think it's going to be good for the Suns. The Suns did go 7-0 in the bubble. Everyone's expecting them to make that jump. If they hadn't made no move, it was going to be hard just because the West is super stacked. But now, if you're able to field the team with the backcourt of Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and you have DeAndre Ayton as your center, you got a little squad. You have a chance in the Western Conference. I think now they're in contention to make the playoffs. They could definitely, I see them capping out at like the 5th to 8th seed, and best case scenario, they win a first round series, they upset somebody, and then they go in the second round. And I have their ceiling as a second round finish. Worst case scenario, they miss out in the playoffs, but they're competitive and they're either the 9th or 10th seed. But all their games are meaningful, and even like how many games they're playing this year? 72. even like the 66 to 72, 72nd game of the season is still important, and they're still right there in the playoff contention, and they have a rather good season. That's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, they get the 4th or 5th seed and they make it to the second round of the playoffs. But other than that, it's a good trade for the Suns. Chris Paul is going to be able to, teach them how to win, how to be a professional. Devin Booker, I think it's really going to unleash Devin Booker and mostly DeAndre Ayton. I think Chris Paul makes centers. Chris Paul gets centers paid. He got Tyson Chandler paid. He got DeAndre Jordan paid. He's gotten so many players paid just because he's a great point guard that's always looking to pass, and he'll get those center stats up. So DeAndre Ayton just made some money by Chris Paul signing there. He's gonna have a way better season next year than this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing his development. He was the first overall pick a couple years ago, so we're gonna see how he progresses. Hopefully, he's able to fulfill all his potential. And as far as Devin Booker is gonna take the ball off his hands, but I think that might be a good thing. They could use him how the Warriors use Curry, and they make him run all over the court, and they set screens off the ball, and he's able to just catch and shoot. I think they do that with Devin Booker. It's going to be great for him. Like, he's not going to have the responsibility of bringing the ball up the court every single time. He's going to be able to, break free away from the offense, let the offense run itself, and then just try to find a space to shoot an open three. And then if Chris Paul goes to the bench, then you can give the ball to Devin Booker, and he's able to do his own thing and be the main ball handler. But it's a good signing for the Suns. It shows that they're committed to winning. It shows that they don't want to be a team that misses the playoffs anymore. And the West keeps getting tougher. The West keeps getting more competitive. And like I said, with the previous trade, with the Dennis Schroder trade, OKC just keeps piling draft picks, keeps piling assets. I'm very excited to see what they do with those draft picks, what they do going forward. 17 first-round picks from here to 2027 draft. What are they going to do? Who are they going to get? In the next couple of years, they're definitely going to make a big splash. It's going to be a highlight. I could already see it's going to be a highlight in one of these next off seasons. OKC trades 5 first-round picks for somebody. Book it. It's going to happen. They have so many draft picks. They can't keep all of them. So, yeah, I think it's a good trade for both teams. Chris Paul did his thing in OKC. 1 year there. He did his thing, took him to the playoffs, helped Shai Alexander. He probably taught him a lot. Got that team back to the playoffs. They get more draft picks. They get some quality players back for him. And the Suns, they get another great player for their roster. They can build on that bubble experience. They can build on that 7-0 bubble record. And hopefully they're able to make the playoffs, and we're able to see Devin Booker in the playoffs, because I think he would be amazing in the playoffs. He seems like he's a player that will shine in the playoffs with the bright lights. So it's the first day, basically, of NBA trades, Monday, November 16th. I'm excited to see how this plays out. I'm excited for the draft on Wednesday. Is there going to be more crazy trades? Are people going to trade into the first 3 picks? Are they going to trade out? It's going to be a crazy offseason. Free agency starts on Friday. You can sign players on Sunday. It's going to be a crazy offseason. I'm going to be here bringing all the information to you guys. I'm going to make further on this week, I'm going to make a predictions for week 11 of the NFL season. I'm also going to make a prediction for match day 9 of the Premier League. And then I'm going to recap whatever has happened between now and then for the NBA offseason. But my name is Ismael San Juan, and this has been Hard to Handle Sports Podcast number 16. Thank you so much for listening to me. Subscribe to me. Subscribe to the podcast. Keep on listening. And you guys have a great day or night or whatever time you're listening to this. Just have a great time. Thank you so much for listening to me. Have a good one.